Hey Jen, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing fine, thank you. So we're gonna review where we're at so far. Of our coaching cycle, there's three components. The first one was where we identified a goal and we identified a strategy. And the second time that you observed me and you watched me do the strategy, and then we discussed me going to your classroom and seeing you implement the strategy, and I video recorded you. And so our third component of the impact cycle from Jim Knight's book is for us to see if there's anything we can improve in the process, or maybe you're happy with the goal and you're happy with the strategy, or maybe we want to set a different goal, or see what we need to do in order to reach that goal. Or so the first thing was I observed your class on Wednesday of last week, and I video recorded you implementing the strategy. So I'm going to let you watch the video. Um, right. Okay. So our strategy was think, pair, share. Do you want to look at the starters and see how your kids did on the starter?
Sure.
Like they answered every question.
I think they did good.
I also liked the fact that you had students come up to the board and they were explaining.
Right. I wanted to have them work number one. I wanted a student to work number one where they actually dilated the figure. So I think they did really well on that.
I agree. I thought they did a good job. They also did a good job at explaining part two of the starter with their partners and with the whole class.
Right. I think overall they did a very good job.
So how do you feel about your progress towards the goal?
I think we did well. I was still concerned a little bit about the time. We went from, we did reduce the time, and I guess the starter was a little bit longer, but the idea behind this starter was to review for their test, and their test had several questions about the properties of dilation. So it was okay, really, that we spent a little bit more time on it, just to make sure that they understood those properties.
Yeah, I agree. I think that was good. And like you said, on the first starter that we did, I think from where we began to where it ended, it was about 24, 25 minutes. And this time it was only 15, so that cut it a pretty good chunk. Do you think it helped to have the students do the think, pair, share strategy?
I think so, because I think some of them really got bogged down on number two, and some of them couldn't come up with properties. So when they started talking to their partner, I think that really helped them. If they couldn't come up with something, I think the partner kind of helped speed that along a little bit and helped them come up with properties.
Yeah, and I think I also heard you in when I observed you and in the video where you were asking the students to share, but they don't necessarily have to share what they thought. It could be what their partner said, and it makes it a little bit less nerve-wracking.
Right.
Okay, so now that we both implemented the think, pair, share strategy, I did it and you did it. Let's talk about the checklist that we looked at last time.
Okay.
I'll put this over here. So who their learning partner will be before they start. How did you decide how they were going to be paired?
They chose their partner this time because I did a survey a couple weeks ago and they asked if they could choose their partner. They felt like they could learn better if they had chosen their partner, so they were still paired up with the partners that they chose.
Yeah, and I thought that was good because I think it gives them a little bit more of like leeway, like I need to work because I'm working with who I need to.
Right.
So
I just think they feel more comfortable talking to someone they know.
Yeah. And how did you know, the next one is exactly what the thinking prompt is to which they are responding. How you mentioned that your two starters, you wanted to cover material that was going to be on your test.
Mm-hmm.
How did you decide what kind of questions you wanted?
Number one, I really just needed them to be able to do the dilation, to check, to make just one last double check, making sure they could dilate around a point that's not the origin. But number two, I felt like with the think, pair, share, it's kind of a better strategy if it's more open-ended,
Mm-hmm.
and they can share answers, and there's lots of different answers that they could share. So I tried to include something that was open-ended.
Yeah, and I think you hit it on the point of with the question being open-ended, like there's so many things the kids could talk about, and
Right.
you had a better idea of what they had to say.
Right.
So I was even impressed with some things. I'm like, oh, well, they remember that,
Right.
or some things that sometimes we don't even think about.
Right.
So I also noticed you had a timer.
Right.
How much time did you set up for the starter originally?
I gave them 5 minutes to work individually.
Mm-hmm.
Because I really wanted them to think about the properties of dilations, and some of them had to go back and look in their notes, which was fine, but I really wanted them to have some individual time first.
Yeah, and I didn't notice a lot of them looking back at their notes.
Not really.
So I think it helped. So the next one is the outcome they need to produce for the class of written products. So obviously you had the paper, and I thought that was a good idea because not only were they sharing, but they also had something that they could keep to also look back at. How they should communicate with each other. So how did you set the expectation of how you wanted them to talk or listen when somebody else was talking?
And we've worked in groups really since August. So the kids are pretty good about respecting each other, and that's the main thing I ask. If someone in your group is talking or if your partner is talking, that you be respectful and listen. And they're a pretty good group of kids, so they're willing to do that.
Yeah, they're really good kids. Okay. So let's see. So given the time we have today, what's the most important thing for us to talk about?
I think the strategy overall worked well. I really do, and I think it really helped the students kind of focus on the properties of dilations, and I think if we hadn't paired with a partner, I don't think they would have been quite as willing to share. So I think overall the strategy was a good strategy. I think this was a really good problem to use it with.
Okay. And then it gave you an idea too of what kind of problems work better.
Mm-hmm.
Have you implemented the strategy in other parts of your lesson?
I haven't. I think I'd like to, but I think I really need to be careful and choose the question, or choose the starter carefully, because I really feel like it needs to be something open-ended that they could provide multiple answers to.
Okay. What are you seeing that shows the strategy to be successful?
I just took a test on this, and there were a couple questions where it involved the properties of dilations, and most all of the kids got those questions right.
Okay.
So I really think that giving them time to think on their own and then share with a partner and then with the class, I think that really helped nail down all the properties and helped them remember them for their test.
So, what did you learn from this strategy, or from this whole process?
I guess really that the kids really like sharing with each other before they have to share with the class. So I think that kind of gives them a safety net. So if maybe they couldn't come up with something, their partner could, and between the two of them, they could come up with something to share. So I think it just kind of makes the kids more comfortable.
I agree. It makes adults feel more comfortable too.
It does.
What surprised you?
I guess still just the time it takes. Because you say you're going to set a timer for 5 minutes, but overall, the whole process took me more like 15. So by the time that they work on their own, they work with their partner, and then we share as a group, it just takes a long time.
Do you think that time, if the more we do it, the less time it'll take?
I think
Every
so.
time.
I think I get a little bit more comfortable. I think the kids get a little more comfortable. And really the time that we spent was well spent because they understood the properties.
Yeah, I agree. I thought it was good. And I mean, you had 5 minutes for them to think and work through the whole thing. But then the 10 minutes, I think, were important. And I think they weren't wasting time.
Right.
What roadblocks are you running into?
I think the only roadblock really is the time factor. And I think it's just organizing my lesson to allow for the sharing, the time it takes to share problems.
So now that you've implemented the Think, Pair, Share strategy, let's talk about adaptations and plan next actions. Do you want to keep using the strategy as it is?
I'd like to. We've just started Unit 3 on right triangles, so I think I can find some places in Unit 3 where I could use this.
Okay. Do you think the checklist is good, or were there some things that you thought, maybe that'll be a little bit different, or I don't think that one's good for me, or?
No, I think the checklist is good. Just to kind of prepare ahead of time and make sure that you know who they need to work with, you know how long you want them to work, and what the outcome needs to be. I think all those are important.
Okay. And do you want to revisit how you're using the teaching strategy?
I think really just kind of find a way to use it in each unit that I do. Because I think it's a really good strategy, and the kids really seem to like it. So I think just coming up with an open-ended question that I could use for right triangles, I think that would be good.
And get them used to that constantly.
Right.
So do you want to choose a new strategy?
I don't think so.
Okay. Do you want to change the way we measure progress towards the goal?
No, I think I'm good.
Okay. So at this point, can we say that we've hit or have not hit our goal?
I think we hit our goal. I think we did well kind of taking the starter and making it take less time, but I think the time we did spend was very beneficial.
I think you did a good job, and I think your students did a good job.
Mm-hmm.
So it says, if we've hit the goal, then do you want to continue to refine the practice, choose a new goal, or take a break?
I'd like to continue to refine the practice just with the next unit and see if we can come up with additional problems that I feel like this would be good.
Additional questions and additional places to implement the strategy.
Right.
I think that's a really good idea. I think that's something we could work together on. It could be something that I do, something that you do, and maybe we could both learn from each other.
Right. I think that'd be good.
Okay. So I think that, well, I have some more questions.
Okay.
Sorry, I thought we were done.
Okay.
So I'm going to ask you a few more questions. How do you feel where you are at right now with the starters and implementing the Think, Pair, Share compared to where you were before?
I'm definitely a lot more comfortable now. And I've always set a timer on my starters, but sometimes they're not very realistic. So I'm really trying to make sure that I set a realistic time and I kind of stick to it. And we did well on this one, sticking to the time.
Yeah, and I think you did a good job. I felt the same way you have. Sometimes like you have 2 minutes, and the next thing you know, they're on the first problem, and I'm like, oh, maybe we need to add 3 more or something. Right. How has that changed the way you do things?
I just think I have to think ahead and make sure that I'm using the time we have in class wisely. I think that's the big thing. And it's making sure I kind of think ahead about how long things are going to take us.
Okay. How has this transition? Okay, thank you. I had to pause the video because they were vacuuming my classroom. Okay, so how has this transitioned into the way students think, pair, and share?
I think the students really have liked the Think, Pair, and Share. It gives them an opportunity to work with someone before having to share their thoughts with the class.
Yeah. And how has the coaching helped you with all of this?
I think the coaching helps because I got to watch you in your classroom, and you did a Think, Pair, Share with your students, and I could see how you ran your classroom, but I also got to see the type of question that you used. So I think that made it a little easier to do it in my classroom.
Okay, well, thank you. You did a good job. Why do you think this is worth your time?
I think that all teachers can get better, and I think it's a good idea to learn new strategies and try new strategies with the kids, and let the kids have some say what kind of strategies they like the best. So I think it's always a good idea to learn new ways to teach.
Yeah. What are you most proud of in terms of what you've accomplished?
I think just being able to do the Think, Pair, Share, and just kind of a new approach that I can use with the kids, and I'm already looking for new ways to use it in the next unit.
Yeah. And I mean, I like the idea that you have about being able to implement the strategy in other parts of the lesson. I know that's going to be our goal next time, and I'm looking forward to continuing to work with you. Thank you for your time, and you did a great job.
Thank you. Thank you for helping me.